Hello everyone, welcome to part 2 of our Blurolls 2.4 Voron kit. And we're going to start with the Z-axis and in particular the Z-axis rails. To complete this, we're going to need the M3 T-nuts, the M3 screws, and of course the spacers that we 3D printed for the linear rails. And so I'm moving ahead here by just inserting these, or rather placing all the T-nuts inside the rail, the Mitsumi rail. And then we're going to start to position these, and I inserted these on the wrong side, so I'm shifting them over. I'm placing the T-rail down here to just take a look at alignment for the T-nuts. And the we 3D printed the door hinge. It turns out one end of the door hinge is just about 3 millimeters thick, which is what we need to space the linear rail away from the frame, or at least the bottom of the frame. And so now I'm just sitting that linear rail on the flat surface and trying to align these T-nuts so the holes for the screws, for the M3 screws, will go in on every other linear rail screw hole. Once those are aligned fairly closely, we have to get the T-nuts flat inside the Mitsumi rail in the slot. And for whatever reason, I was having a little bit of difficulty here. And so I'm using a small Allen wrench to push down on the T-nut. And then I'm taking an M3 screw, screwing it in just a little bit, and then using that as a lever to shift the T-nut over flat. And it's sort of a circular motion, a partial circular motion to shift it over. And then I unscrew it and then move on to the next one. This is probably not ideal. I'm sure there are easier ways to do this, but hey, this is what worked for me. Once the rough alignment of the T-nuts is completed, I place the linear rail on top of the Mitsumi aluminum extrusion, and I'm taking our 3D printed spacers and I'm placing them on both the Mitsumi extrusion and the linear rail to center it properly, and again using the door hinge to space it 3 millimeters apart. And here I'm taking a really thin, small Allen key and just simply sticking it in each hole where the T-nut resides, getting it into the hole of the T-nut, and sort of just swirling it around just a little bit to try and make sure these are centered as closely as possible. And then we go ahead and complete the next 3 linear rails. Next is the Z-drive assembly. we need our 4 Z-drive housings and the heatset inserts. And make sure you grab enough of those to place in your Z-drive housing. The heatset inserts all need to be aligned the same way. If you take a look closely, there's a definite bottom and a definite top. Where the bottom has no threads, is smooth, and is designed to be pushed into the hole fairly easily. So I'm just going to go ahead and insert these into one of the Z-drive housings all the way around, all 6. As you can see here, sometimes they're a little bit tough to get in, but if you work at it, give it a little bit of extra strength there, you can get them forced in. I'm trying to get them as straight as possible before I heat them up with the soldering iron to make sure it's as easy to get these perfectly positioned as they need to be to make sure the screws insert properly once these have been inserted and have cooled down. Once these are in, you can take your hot soldering iron, simply sit them on top, and just start to push down gently but firmly, and they will sink in. Make sure they're flush, make sure they're all the way in. I found that sometimes once they cooled, they would rise up above the level of the plastic just a little bit. And so sometimes these would require a second or a third pass to make sure they were completely flush with the front of the Z-drive housing. And then go ahead and complete the other 3. Next, we're going to attach the 16-tooth pulleys to the Z-drive stepper motors. Make sure you've got some Loctite so the set screws don't come out, a paper towel or a rag or something to help clean any drips. Of course, the 4Z-drive motors, and then the 16-tooth pulleys. There are 8 pulleys in a pack. They look very, very similar. Make sure you count the teeth on the pulleys, and we only want the ones that have 16 teeth. So I did not record this correctly, and so I attached the pulley to that motor while it was pretty much off camera. So we're going to go ahead and do the second motor. So take the pulley and extract the screw, put a drop of the Loctite into the hole, and this can get a little bit messy. The Loctite's very runny, and then insert the set screw back into the pulley, and then go ahead and do the second screw as well. Again, with the drop of the Loctite, insert it in. And you may find as you do this, you need to use that paper towel to clean any of the Loctite that has been squeezed out of the hole. And you'll find this also when you put the pulley on the shaft. Sometimes some of that Loctite will come up. And to try and keep this neat and clean, just continue to wipe it as you go along. So here we are tightening the set screws. I'm doing them hand tight. Later on, I will go through and make them a little bit tighter. Try not to overdo it or over torque these. The shaft is steel on the stepper motors. It can take a lot, but these pulleys are made out of aluminum and they're fairly soft. So you want it tight, firm, but don't over torque these or they'll strip. And then you'll need new pulleys. So once you've done the first motor, go ahead and complete the other three. So we got all the Z drive steppers set and ready to go for installation of the printer. So this will conclude this video. We're going to complete the Z drive setup in a following video in an attempt to keep these a little short. If you found this video useful, or if you've liked it, and if you like what you're seeing so far, please go ahead and like, or even better, subscribe, so you will be aware of when the following videos are published. Thank you.